Welcome to the February 13th, 2023 edition of Back Nine Report. Joining us tonight, our good friend Mike May. Mike, the weather in Michigan has been in single digits the last few days. What is the temperatures in Florida?
Well, I'm in Daytona Beach right now, and the temperatures were ideal. I think they were high 60s, low 70s, and this is the beginning of Daytona 500 week that starts.
Oh, yeah.
So the Great American Race. Of course, we those from Indiana say that the Indianapolis 500 is the greatest spectacle in racing. Those in Daytona feel otherwise.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I used to have some friends from Ohio that would travel down. They would plan their vacation around. They would take their camper and they'd spend the whole week down there for the race weeks, go to all the races. There's like 10 or 12 races all week long, the trucks and the smaller cars and all this stuff. It's really quite a big deal. So, but this is a golf show. We're not going to talk racing here, Mike. I want to tell you, I don't know if you know this or not, because I know you're an LPGA guy. You really follow them closely. But the PGA Tour is nearly halfway through the 2022-23 PGA Tour season. And Mike, we finally had a tournament I could get interested in watching. We want to talk a little bit about what we learned last week at the Waste Management Phoenix Open and who are the favorites heading into the big events, the Players, which is only about 4 weeks away, and the Masters coming up at about 6 weeks. It's getting closer. So I'm going to ask you some questions, Mike, and we're going to play a little game here. This is called Big Deal, Little Deal, or No Deal at All, okay? So number one, of course, Scotty Scheffler won the tournament, a repeat winner. We got to talk about him. He returns to the number one player in the world. The Waste Manages where this started last year for Scotty, and he repeats again this year. Are we going to see him go on a run and win 4 events this year? Only time will tell, but barring injury, he is definitely one of the few guys to watch every week. Last year, he made $1.5 million for the win. This year, he pockets $3.6 million for the win at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So my question, Scotty Scheffler repeats at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Big deal, little deal, no deal at all.
Well, when it's 3.6 million you're winning, that's a big deal. And when you repeat as a winner, that's a big deal because not everybody does that. So definitely Scheffler is a horse for that course. And the timing is perfect. We're, again, 6 weeks away from Augusta. You don't want to peak too early. But if you ask him, he probably would have said, yes, I expected to win. I won last year. I came back with the intention of winning, and I did just that. So I think he's thrown the gauntlet down, and he said, I'm here to play well in 2023, and now's a good time to win, to start that march towards the Players in March and Augusta in April.
Yeah, I'm going to take just a little bit different tack, but I'm agreeing with you. It is a big deal, just for the reasons you said. It's a repeat. The purse now is $3.6 million because it's one of these designated events with like a $20 million purse. That's a big payday. I mean, that's normally like 3 wins, okay? So that is a big deal. But the other big part of this for me was the fact that he stared down Jon Rahm. He stared down a really good field. Nick Taylor was giving him a pretty good run there, but, he kind of faltered at the end. But I got to tell you, when he flew the green on 16 and he's looking at that chip back up the hill, I thought, oh, well, he's looking at bogey here. This is going to be close. No, he makes a fantastic chip, knocks down the 10-footer. Nick misses his 3-shot lead going to the last hole. That was it. Big deal for me. His short game is really as good as anybody's in the game right now.
I totally agree. Again, you had a big audience. It was Super Bowl Sunday in Phoenix. I think the ratings probably were a little higher this year for that event than they were maybe the last couple of years. So it was a good time to win. And again, the payday was worth chasing, and good for Scotty. And now, can he keep this momentum going?
Yeah, I'm gonna reply to something you just mentioned. I was gonna save it for later in the show, but the ratings were actually down 16% from last year on television. The crowd, the live crowd was fantastic. Okay, so over 500,000 people. What's that?
The quality of the audience was strong because you were watching and I was watching. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
the numbers may be down, but the quality was right there.
but the crowds, the fans were big. The crowds were big there. They had, LIV. They want to talk about how popular they are. Well, they had more fans at one event, the PGA Tour, than the LIV will have in the next 5 years total at their events. So, it's a big deal. Okay, next question, Mike. In 5 starts this season, Jon Rahm has already won twice. He's earned over $6 million in prize money, is number 1 in the FedEx Cup and number 3 in the world. So he ended up only with a 3rd place here, didn't quite get it done. His performance here at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, big deal, little deal, no deal at all.
I think he would have liked to have won. I don't think he can be disappointed with a 3rd place finish. It's not that big of a deal. He made the cut. He was top 10. In fact, he was top 5. And you don't want to peak too early for the big events coming up in March, April, May, June, July. So that's a solid performance. It didn't hurt his worldwide ranking, and reminded people that he's still playing well and he's still sharp as a tack, and plans to be that way for the weeks to come.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's kind of a little deal. I'm not sure it's no deal at all, but it's a little deal for him. He always wants to win. He's very competitive. He's very emotional. He wants to win, and he wants to be that number 1 guy. So right now he's just got Rory and he's just got Scotty Scheffler ahead of him, and he's right there in the conversation with those guys. You throw in Collin Morikawa, you throw in Patrick Cantlay, and a couple other guys, and you got the best guys in the world right there. So and he's above most of those guys. He's only behind Rory and Scotty, so he's right there. But like you say, he's gearing his game up to the Players and the Masters coming up. That's what he's gearing up for. So he's probably right on track. So him not winning is a little deal. He's got some stuff he can work on, but he's playing at a really high level right now.
I agree.
Hey, Mike. So as I mentioned, I finally watched. I watched quite a bit of this. I watched most of Sunday's round. I watched a little bit Friday, a little bit on Saturday. So I was pretty up to date what was going on. And so we finally got to see the best players in the same event. Cream rose to the top. Rory didn't have his best week, but Rahm and Scheffler were in the mix. This is one of those new designated events with big purses. It gets these guys, the top guys, all playing there, which with LIV draining a lot of the big names away from the PGA Tour, they need to get those big names in tournaments together and not spread out through the year. So this new designated event, how did you see it? Big deal, little deal, or no deal?
I thought it was a big deal because the cream rose to the top. Scheffler, Rahm, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth was there. So again, I looked at the leaderboard this morning in the newspaper, and it was what I think the PGA Tour wanted, what the people in Phoenix were hoping for, tournament organizers. So I think the event delivered as expected, and so far so good. 1 for 1 for the PGA Tour on these designated events.
Ricky Fowler didn't quite play up to his standards, but had a good week. Big deal, little deal, or no deal at all for Ricky Fowler?
It will be a big deal. It will be the beginning of something transformational in him if he can keep it going. If he falls by the wayside, it becomes a little deal. If he continues to play well, we'll look back in this event. Again, I think he was tied 9th, tied 10th. He was right there. 4 solid rounds. Probably could have made a few putts here or there, as he would admit, but big step forward for Ricky if he can keep it going. If not, it was a one-off deal.
I agree with you. I think it's a big deal for Ricky Fowler. Just looking at him now, he's not that little kid anymore. You can see it. He's a little bit, he's a little bit older. He's got a family now. He's kind of settled down a little bit. And I think he wants to get back to that place where he's among the top players in the world. I know he's been working really hard. And I thought he struck the ball really well from tee to green. I didn't see him make a lot of miscues. The only thing I saw on Sunday was he missed some putts that, they lipped out. They were close. Maybe he didn't quite put enough on them to hold the line. But he's right there. That's the kind of thing that when you get back in contention, that putting, if you're a little bit off with that or you're a little bit nervous, that's where it really shows up. So I think this was a big week for Ricky. I think that's going to play well for him going forward, give him a lot of confidence coming out of last week.
And I think that we get closer to the Players, which is an event he has won before, though I believe his lone Players victory was in May, not in March. But that's a course that he knows well. And that will be a good bellwether indicator for how he's playing this year. It's right before the four majors. If he plays well there and the weeks leading up, it's going to be a great year for Ricky Fowler.
I agree. Um, Justin Thomas, you talked about him. With a fifth place finish, it appears that he's getting ready for the Players and the Masters. Fifth place finish, that's not too bad, especially in this event, which it's still, a big payday. So Justin Thomas finishing fifth in Arizona, big deal, little deal, or no deal at all?
I think it's no big deal at all because it's what we expect of him. He probably expected to finish no worse than there. He's always in contention. Of course, he has two majors, two PGA championships, does not have a Masters, US Open, or an Open championship. And I think that he is trending in the right direction. And his result is what we expect of him. If he misses a cut, it's a shock. If he's in the top 20, it's what we expect.
Yeah, I'll even put that a little bit more. I expect him to be in top 10 almost every week that he plays. He is that good. Last year, Carlos and we talked about him quite a bit. And last year, he came out at the beginning of the year working on shots. He was working on fades. He was working on draws, hitting it low, hitting it high. He was trying to hit the shot that was called for, not just hitting his standard cut shot into every green. And he learned how to hit these shots under pressure, and that really helped him later in the year get another PGA title. And, he's definitely one of the top players in the world for sure. So moving on, after Tiger, of course, Jordan Spieth seems to be the most popular guy on the PGA Tour. Fans seem to love him. The women want to be with him, and the guys all want to be like him. His T6 last week was his best finish this year. With the Players and the Masters looming, big deal, little deal, or no deal?
I think that it's a big deal. It's again his best finish so far in a few months. Justin Thomas, his Ryder Cup buddy, President's Cup partner, is playing well, and I don't think he wants to be lost in the shuffle as players like Scheffler and Schauffele and Thomas, Rahm are at the top. I mean, I think that Jordan Spieth had a great year last year, and he needs to back that up and maybe play well enough in July and win that. He needs to win a PGA championship to complete his career slam. He's won the Open, both Opens, and a Masters. So it's Jordan does have a driver that can get a little wayward at times, and he kept things pretty much in control this week and had a strong finish. So it's what we really expect of the new Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, it seemed like every time I saw him, he was playing from the rough. The driver was really, really erratic. He's got to figure out a way to hit some more fairways. And when he does that, he's going to win in bunches. He can get away with that erratic driver at Augusta, though. As we know, there's a lot of room to hit it there. So, and he's one of the longer players now. I mean, he's like 12th in driving distance on the PGA Tour, which I was amazed when I saw that stat today. But he barely hits 50% of the fairways, and he didn't come close to that number last week. His ranking on all-around driving is 159, so he's way down the list. But his greens in regulation is 72%, which, I mean, that just tells you what a great iron player he is, because he seems to be able to get it up and down from anywhere, find the green, and then he's such a good putter. He ends up with great rounds. But that driver is still killing. It's kind of like what we saw with Rory for a couple of years, where he was hitting it long, but you just never quite knew where it was going to end up. And if Jordan figures that out and finds some more fairways, I think he's definitely got to be one of the guys to watch for the Players and the Masters coming up, Mike.
If I was unaware that his driving accuracy was so bad at Phoenix, but I was aware of the fact that he was on the green a lot. So either he was barely missing the fairways, or he was getting good lies in the rough, or he is comfortable there because he's there so often.
He was in some weird places, man. I want to tell you, I can't believe how he scrambled around and got posted the scores he posted from where he was hitting the ball. So one more question I want to ask you with this. The Waste Management Phoenix Open is kind of a different animal. huge crowds, rowdy crowds, an overall party atmosphere. But this was one of these designated events for the PGA Tour, and it comes back the old adage: if you pay them, they will come. Um, there was not an LIV hangover at the Waste Management. Fans turned out to the tune of 500,000 people. $20 million purse, big payday. Just finishing in the top 10 earned nearly 500,000. We mentioned Justin Thomas earlier for his I think fifth place finish. He got nearly $1 million for that, $980,000 for that for a top five. That's just unbelievable. Thanks to the LIV for that, for the PGA Tour raising these purses and coming up with this idea. This is the Waste Management. Like I say, it's a little different animal, and now being a designated event, Waste Management Phoenix Open, big deal, little deal, no deal at all.
We expect big crowds at Waste Management. They cater to the big crowds, so those numbers are not surprising. They keep getting bigger and bigger every year because the infrastructure within the tournament seems to expand to accommodate more people, and it's as much a party as it is a pro golf tournament, and that's just the nature of Waste Management. They get more players around that one par three in the back nine, 16, than many courses do for the entire day. So it's an animal to itself, and the numbers are strong.
Yep, you're exactly right. We didn't mention Jason Day. Should have given him a shout out. He ends up with a fifth place finish, his best in quite a while. It'd be great to see Jason Day get back playing well again. Kind of a little bit of a surprise. Rory didn't have his best week. He ended up down like T32 or something like that. So Scotty jumps over him into number one. A couple of things. Surprise of the week. We mentioned Ricky Fowler having a really good week. That was a big surprise. But a couple of things that really surprised me was Patrick Cantlay and Colin Morikawa both missed the cut. And that really is surprising with how talented both those guys are. Just an off week for them, I guess. But on the whole, just to wrap this up, the leaderboard featured Xander Schauffele, Jordan Spieth, Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, Jason Day. This is what the PGA Tour needs. This is what they got to have. This will bring fans back to watch them on television. These are the guys that along with Cantlay and Morikawa, these are the guys that people want to see. So they've got to have them playing well right now, especially leading up to these big events. The TV numbers are down across the board. They were last fall. I think people are kind of tired of hearing about LIV and the PGA Tour fighting against each other. They need to get this thing sorted out. But this is what will bring the fans back, Mike.
I agree. Those names are what you would expect and hope to see on the leaderboard of a major on Sunday. And if the players or the Masters or U.S. Open or the PGA Championship have those names, they'll be delighted. And I think that the one of the things that hurt the Phoenix Open numbers was the fact that Super Bowl had like a 6-hour pregame. So I'm sure there are a lot of people watching football pregame and would have normally watched golf.
Yeah, but it was compared to last year. So it was the same deal last year. They have that big lead up going into the Super Bowl every year. The Waste Management, they love that. And the Super Bowl was right there in Scottsdale, right there alongside the just down the road a few miles from where the golf tournament was held. So, but they love that. It's a big deal for them. Mike, coming up this week, we got another big thing coming up, and in kind of a shout out to that. I got a picture of Riviera in the background here. The famous clubhouse sits up on the hill above the 18th green. And a guy that we've heard of before is going to be in this tournament, Tiger Woods. If you remember him, he's going to be in the field this week. So I'll just make it this week. Riviera for the tournament this week, the Genesis, big deal, little deal, or no deal at all?
This is a big deal. Anytime we see Tiger make an appearance at a golf tournament and play, it's massive because I think the number of times we'll see him this year are probably less than 10, maybe even no more than 5 or 6. And this is a big deal to him. And let's hope he makes the cut. And boy, wouldn't it be exciting to have him around on the weekend and maybe in the top 25?
Yeah, once you get down off the hill, the Riviera is not that hilly. It's a fairly level down in the valley there. There are some little hills and stuff, so you can walk around that. But coming down that hill and going back up that hill after 18, I just wonder if they're going to let him take a cart back up the hill or if he's going to have to hike up there or not. Because that's going to be a strain for him. I'm curious to see how he does after playing 18 and trying to walk up that hill. That's a big hill.
Well, I think you could justify giving him a cart because you're trying to just give him a little freedom from the crowd, so it doesn't become
Well, they can't. PGA Tour rules. They cannot give him a cart during the round. But after it's over, after
if it's
18, they
over.
could to get back up the hill, maybe. Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, he will play one round where he finishes on 18, and another round where 18th is his ninth hole.
yeah.
So
You're right.
when he finishes at 18, they might cut him some slack. When he finishes his ninth hole at 18, he's on his own.
Yeah. So after the Genesis this week, this wraps up golf in California. We're moving to Florida, and so then we've got the Honda Classic, the Arnold Palmer, and then the Players. So just real quick, just to kind of wrap this up, who's your favorite now going into Players after what we saw this week?
Whoa, that's I wasn't expecting this question from you, but
I like to throw you a curveball once in a while,
yeah, it's a curveball that I'll try to
just to
hit.
see if you're paying attention.
Oh yeah, I'm going to say Justin Thomas just because he any kind of pick of him is a safe one. And but I did see about Honda Classic. I saw where Zach Johnson and Luke Donald, the two Ryder Cup captains, have committed to the event. So it's a sort of a Ryder Cup watching weekend at the Honda, which will be the last year of Honda sponsorship. But yeah, let's pick Justin Thomas. And if I were to pick a dark horse, someone you wouldn't expect to win, but who could win, let's just say Zach Johnson. What the heck?
That is a dark horse. But I'm
Yes.
telling you, I'm not going to pick a. I like I like any of the top guys. Justin Thomas is a great pick. I think that you've got Rory and you've got Rahm and you've got Scotty Scheffler. I mean, Morikawa, Cantley. I mean, you could pick from that group. I'm just going to pick a dark horse. I'm going to pick Ricky Fowler. He impressed me this week. I think he's on the road back, and he's won there before. He knows what's going on there. So I like Ricky.
I like
Um,
Ricky too.
LPGA is off this week. Champions Tour gets going again down in Naples, Florida, the Chubb Classic. Mike, thanks as always coming on doing the show with us. We really appreciate it.